Hey everyone, this is Dr. Dylan Peckus here today, and today I want to share with you a very awesome journey of one of our most favorite clients. And for all of our clients who may watch this, you're all my most favorite, just like everyone does not have favorite kids. They're all your favorite, right? So in all seriousness, I want to talk about Trevor's journey in dealing with sleep issues, sleep apnea, and where he was and just kind of going through all the stages so that everyone out there can be, understanding like, okay, this is what it looks like to go through this process and be able to really know at the end of the day, there's a lot more hope than you may think and being able to overcome these issues and reclaim your life from sleep apnea. So first, I want to thank you for being here, Trevor. Thanks for
Thank
joining
you.
us.
Yeah, of course.
Awesome. So we'll just start with the hardest questions possible. So tell us a bit about like when did you first start to notice like something's off with my sleep here? What was that like for you?
Yeah, so for me, I was noticing a gradual change in the way that I felt when I woke up. And uh, that was mostly easily described as brain fog, fatigue, and that just naturally got worse and worse. And then I actually started noticing that I was waking up with a start in the middle of the night and trying to figure out what that was, looking for terms that describe that, and went to the doctor um, and got a sleep study done. Unfortunately, the doctor didn't follow up with me as he should have, and so I spent like over a year, I think, or maybe 6 months, just waiting to hear more about my results. And when I found out the results, it was that I had sleep apnea and mild sleep apnea. And so that was what explained why I was waking up in the middle of the night. Um, that just generally got worse and worse over time till I was waking up with the feeling seconds before waking that I was going to die. And so it's just a moment of, I'm going to die, and then you're awake. And it's just the weirdest feeling. It happens so fast that you don't even have time to get scared about it. You just wake up realizing that it was just waking up from sleep with a sleep apnea event. But it was still just, still terrifying, still felt really hard on my body. I started feeling chest pain in the mornings and throughout the day, heart palpitations. And I also figured out that I had mold in my house that was possibly the main contributor to the issues with my sleep because it was in the bedroom. So, of course, you go down the road of going to the sleep doctor, getting set up with a CPAP. I live in Alaska. I spend a lot of time outdoors. I spend a lot of time camping, and the idea of being attached to a machine every night is probably for me more um, more horrible than most, just because I love the freedom of going and camping and just being able to just go anywhere and stay in a tent and be comfortable doing that. And then all of a sudden now you're basically having to connect up to an electric device that has to be plugged in or charged. So that was pretty devastating to my life. And yeah, and then just other devastating part of being diagnosed with sleep apnea and getting on a CPAP is the understanding that no matter how much research you do online, that CPAP is the gold standard for dealing with sleep apnea, and there's no hope for getting off it because it's just kind of part of the medical industry is just to keep you on the sleep apnea, the CPAP bandwagon for forever. So that's where I came from before I met you, doctor.
Yeah. So and that's like such a super common thing, except the Alaska part. We don't that's not a typical part of everything. Although I'm not sure if I haven't looked at the geography of sleep apnea, but Maybe I will after this. But yeah, being able to have that journey where like I did for mine, I'm sure many people, you have the start to show up in your life, get the sleep study. And then like it kind of goes into that. You go into the algorithm, if you will. Here's your CPAP, enjoy. Oh, thanks. This is the best. Yep. Well, you can have like a nasal pillow if you want. Oh, great. It's like, thanks, even better. Um, and one thing that I'm always curious about, because I know for like me and my journey, I was a bit of a pusher. Just keep going, keep going, keep coffee. Like, I had a certain point where I was like, all right, I need to like really tackle this a lot more head on. What was that for you? Whether it was sometimes people read something on Google, sometimes like they have a really bad day, or someone in their family even mentions that. Like, what was that for you?
I think it was just the realization that even with the CPAP, I wasn't feeling good and I was still just having poor sleep because you can either have poor sleep with sleep apnea events or you can have poor sleep because you have this air being forced down into your lungs, which is just not comfortable. And I was still, it was better than no CPAP, but it was still not good. I still felt pretty bad. And knowing that there was really nothing that I was doing to improve it over time, it was probably just going to get worse. And I felt like I was too young for this. I felt like there's got to be something out there. So I kept looking and I looked everywhere I could. And until I found your program, well, there was nothing even close to being hopeful that I found.
Mm-hmm. What were some of the other things, whether it's
I
mouth
mean,
guards or
I'm
yeah.
sure you've had patients tell you that they bought a didgeridoo and started playing the didgeridoo. It seems ridiculous, but I like the didgeridoo after all, as it turns out. But it wasn't enough to help me um, significantly. So I was doing things like that. I was doing a lot of healthy things in my life, like sauna and cold plunge, things that I know that you are recommending in general to people as well. But it just wasn't enough to really get my health back on track without your program.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. And then speaking to that, like when you first saw us, which was probably, in very high credibility places like Instagram,
Yeah.
probably. At least it wasn't TikTok, right? Um, what were kind of the first thoughts? Because it's a bit of a stark contrast to go from you got to wear this thing, and then I'm over here saying you don't. What were the initial thoughts when you first learned about us?
I mean, I have to admit that I was extremely skeptical at first, and uh, I'm a skeptic by nature. And so when I saw your posts on Instagram, I started following you, and even after following you for a while, I'm like, I still don't feel like I'm ready to get in touch because it just didn't. I tried to find other information about your program, and I couldn't really find anything that could verify, people's experience very well. So uh, it just actually took me to the point where I was just like, I have no other options. Here's a guy that keeps on coming on my feed saying he can help me. Maybe this is not real, but I'm desperate. I'm gonna try, and
Yeah.
that's where I got your ebook and went through that, and it was still kind of like not really sure still, and then finally it just got to the point where I'm like, I have nothing to lose. I haven't seen anything else even relevantly even relevant to getting better, so gave it a try.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. And then so working through a lot of uncertainties there, as many people do. Because let's be honest, it's the internet and it's 2024. We could be
Yeah.
AI right now, probably. That's actually a scary thought. That's why you move your hand over here, because then the eyes don't mess up. That's how you know now that people are now aware of that. So skepticism, yes, always good. And then in terms of when like we first spoke on the phone, I know you said like being driven to like, yes, I gotta fix this, but what happened in that conversation where like that gave you more certainty of like okay, this can help.
I think some of the questions that I asked you were helpful, including like your success rate with getting people off of CPAP from your program, which I found really hopeful when I found that out, and just your general um, positive outlook on, whether you could help me or not.
Mhm.
I think that was what made me pretty hopeful.
Gotcha. Awesome. Okay. So then you decide to join the team. Makes it sound like a an action movie now, but I guess it is. Then like as you were in there, you're like, okay, and then all these sessions and all these things and my personalized all this different stuff. Um, what were some of the first initial signs to you were like, okay, I made the right decision? Because whenever you're like you like really anything, whether you get married, you go to a school, certain career path, there's that first sign you're looking for, like, am I on the right path? Like what was that for you?
For me, it was pretty early on in the program. Some of the changes that I made to my lifestyle to help me sleep. So I guess there's two issues that I was faced with. Number one was not feeling the sleep pressure to go to sleep and having very um, not consistent sleep pattern. And then that coupled with the sleep apnea just made for a horrible sleep hygiene. So the first thing that I noticed was my sleep pattern started to become very consistent. And that was probably within the first week or two, where the protocols that you laid out in the first couple of weeks had me wanting to fall asleep at 9 or 10 o'clock at night, and it's just never been the case for me. I've always wanted to stay up till midnight, and then the next day I'll be tired and go to bed at 10, and then the next day it'll be 2 a.m. and just all over the map. So that was the first noticeable change to my health, is that my sleep hygiene was becoming much cleaner. The second thing that I noticed was I think it was actually within 3 weeks, maybe on the fourth week, I felt like my sleep was so solid that I was taking my CPAP off at night and feeling pretty good with it off. And then I asked you and Dr. Molly about whether I should continue doing that. You said I should, and I haven't put my CPAP on since then, which I was blown away by how early that is. I don't know how common it is, but for me, I was like, this is incredibly powerful what we're doing here, and it's having a real effect on my life. And keep in mind, I'm skeptical, so I'm aware of placebo effect and have a science background, and I tried many times to just, hey, I feel decent right now. I'm going to try taking my CPAP off before your program, and it never worked out for me, not even for a single night. So this was clearly something that was real and was a positive change in my health.
A lot of that was like you putting in the work. And so as we work together, because there's like the different categories of things, like the breath work, environmental changes, nutrition, circadian rhythm, components as well. I feel like I'm missing something. Nervous system a little bit.
Supplements,
So out of all of those, especially in that like a first initial stage, what do you feel is like the most helpful for you?
the breath works, but I mean, it seems like it's the entire package that's probably working for me, but those would be the things that I would guess were the most powerful, because my breath hold um, was not good, and it improved pretty drastically really quickly, and that seemed to make a difference.
Nice, nice. And then even going in the journey, because a lot of times I'll say like it's we try to make it as simple as possible, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's easy. So while working together, what were some like maybe a challenge that you had, uh whether it was with the breath work or something else, and like how were you able to move through that? more easily.
The one thing I'll say about the way you guys approach your program is that you're really good at supporting people to make those changes. And you also understand how difficult it is for the average person to make these types of changes. So you really take care of both sort of the medical health aspect of it and also sort of the mental lifestyle aspect of it hand in hand, which I think is probably why I think your program was very successful for me, is because you married those two so well. And so uh, the the things that maybe I struggled with would be I did not plan to start your program at the most ideal point in my life where I had all this time to write in my journal, think about these lifestyle changes, do all the extra things that you need to do. It was actually in one of the busiest times of my life, moving to a new house. My work was exceptionally busy, bunch of other things going on, personal life. And so that was not a very good strategy on my part in the sense that I didn't have the timing great, but because you guys did such a great job with your program, I did great with all that going on in the background. And I would also just say that in hindsight, I would have started your program as early as I could. You know, it doesn't matter what's going on in my life because I was off the CPAP and I was feeling so much better so early on that even though, yeah, it's hard to wrap your arms around program when you're really busy, but you're feeling better and you're sleeping better, so it helps to do that. So I would definitely uh, advise anyone thinking about starting the program to just do it as soon as you can, because if you know, I did it during probably one of the busiest times of my entire life, and I have no regrets about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's such a good lesson to share because sometimes I'll joke with people. They're like, "Well, I have this and that coming up." I'm like, "Oh, like, well, let me know when you're on like on a tropical island and there's nothing else going on. Like, there's always gonna be something."
Yeah.
And I think really as a testament to you, like being able to do that during like the busiest time then allows you pretty much like at all other times like you've built so much muscle in being able to chisel out the time and prioritize what you're able to do for your health so that whether it's a business thing or anything else like you're able to still take care of yourself and not go through the cycles people go through like oh well March and May were busy and then I was healthy in June but then July 4th happened like you're able to really carry that very well so that's awesome there. And then in terms of then like since getting off the CPAP and like building up from there, in terms of like your sleep quality, your energy, what have been some of those like those moments you've noticed where people kind of have as distinction points, because we can talk about like, oh yeah, your sleep tracker, blah blah blah. But it can be as simple as whether like, yeah, I get to 8 p.m. and I'm like still alert. So like what were some of those for you as you went on?
I can't understate the joy of sleeping without a CPAP. There's there is something about being attached to that CPAP, and I think I actually, um, as a patient, was able to deal with the CPAP well, but um, physically speaking, but mentally, it felt like a handcuff attached to my face. And uh, I, so I mean that's just such a powerful experience to get off that thing that it almost overshadows everything else in terms of like what's the real impact in your life. That is the main one. The other ones are just not dealing with brain fog anymore, not feeling chest pain and heart palpitations anymore, which is just a scary thing because you know that your heart is stressed and there's not much you can do about it. And this was happening with the CPAP on. So being able to wake up and feel rested, it's pretty awful feeling to wake up and feel tired every day, day after day, and going to bed knowing that you're probably gonna feel the same way in the morning, maybe worse. That's horrible. So those are the things that really are impactful, and that all stems from just being off the CPAP and getting a good sleep cycle going.
Nice. Awesome. Awesome. Do you still have it in your closet? Did you return it? Where is it?
I almost took your recommendation to reverse the motor and turn it into a vacuum, but um, I have it. I have it somewhere. I'm hoping that it'll just collect dust to the point where I'm ready to toss it out.
Gotcha.
Um,
We should have another program called the you can convert into a dust buster. I think that would be the good post program there. Might as well. Might as well at that point. Awesome. So yeah, so thanks so much, Trevor, for sharing your story. Because when like saying like you can get off your CPAP, that just seems like the craziest thing because we're told all the time like it's the only way, it's the gold standard, yada yada yada. And then like being able to have someone, well, I guess there's two people, me and you, on this screen here. So 2 out of 2, 100% of this audience has gotten off their CPAP. It's possible, okay? And it's not the easiest thing in the world because it's not just as simple as doing a little bit of breathing or eating more broccoli. I wish it was that I would have a broccoli farm. That's how that would go. But the fact of the matter is, it does take work. It does take dedication. But like something that I've always appreciated about you, Trevor, is like being able to like look this problem in the face and have a very real open conversation like we just did about this and like do it in a way where like it's like, okay, here's the problem and let's do something about it. Okay. It may be something where you've gone through, because I'm sure as in your journey you went through like CPAP, then you probably looked up a study over here, then you probably looked up that study over there, da, 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 da. And then like you kept going, and then like to get here where, you know, I'm sorry I don't have a big organization like ResMed or Philips to back my research studies. Those are CPAP manufacturers, everyone. But being able to have the experience of that, so, so important. And so really want to thank you for sharing that glimpse of what is possible to give people hope, because the research is very clear that out of 100 people who start a CPAP, 70 of those 100 people will hate it. Okay, we're the silent majority. Okay, you're the guilty majority if you go to your doctor and you tell them that and they make you feel like the worst person ever. How dare you not use your CPAP? But there's a reason it doesn't work for everyone, and be able to have more options is so, so important for your best sleep, your best health, and your best life. So want to thank you, Trevor, for sharing your story and your journey, and you know, wish you the best of continuing to not know exactly where your CPAP is.
well, yeah, I want to sincerely thank you for the impact you've had on my life, because I see my life of going two ways, with the CPAP and without. And I'm really glad I got to take the without fork, because I don't think I would have had the quality of life that I would have hoped for if I was on the CPAP for the rest of my life. And I really have sincere thanks for you and Dr. Molly for what you've done for me.
Thank you. Thank you. Really appreciate that. Awesome. All right, everyone. Thanks for watching, and we will see you somewhere sometime soon. All right. Bye.